and draft budget 2025-2026 community consultation. Just very quickly, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners on the land on which we meet and pay respect to elders past, present and emerging. Tonight is an opportunity to get to know some of the members of our community, which I'm very grateful for you coming along tonight, and importantly, gain some insights and listen to the people of our region in terms of their priorities and their concerns particularly in relation to the draft budget that has been presented. I believe I've got to address some housekeeping points very quickly. There is bathrooms off to the side for those in need, and please also tea and coffee to the side. Please help yourselves. If in case of a fire, there will be council officers that will direct you, and if you would please follow that direction in case of an emergency. I've only just received these notes, so you'll have to bear with me because I think they're all out of order now. Okay, there we go. Found my place again, thank you. If I could please acknowledge and introduce my fellow councillors from Division 1, Councillor Amanda Hay; from Division 2, Councillor Kerry Quire; from Division 3, Councillor Stephen Moriarty; from Division 4, Councillor Jennifer Sanders; from Division 5, Councillor Marshall Chalk; and from Division 6, our Deputy Mayor, Councillor Duncan McGuinness. Thank you all for being in attendance. Also just like to mention that any third party or personal information shared tonight in the group sessions will not be disclosed publicly. Only the presentation section of the session will be recorded, but please be aware they may be taking photos throughout the evening. Previous community consultations have been invaluable in helping Council to fine-tune its budget for the coming year and in developing its corporate plan, which provides a vision for our region for the next 5 years with a focus on achieving key outcomes for the community. So your feedback tonight and the feedback from online submissions will be incorporated in both of these documents, which will come back to Council for consideration in June. This evening we will be running some workshop-style activities at the end of the presentations to give you a perspective on the draft corporate plan 2025-2030. We'll get there. To set the scene, here are some of the facts about Scenic Rim that you may or may not be aware of. Scenic Rim population and growth as at the 30th of June 2023 was approximately 45,248 people. By 2041, it is estimated there will be approximately 65,000 residents in Scenic Rim. In 2023, there are approximately 16,500 local jobs, of which 2,177 jobs are in healthcare and social assistance, making it the largest employment sector in the Scenic Rim. The total land size of the Scenic Rim is 4,200 square kilometres. The total region has 9 national parks and conservation parks, covering more than 84,400 hectares. For those who operate in acres, this is equivalent to 208,000 acres. And then when you compare Scenic Rim in total land area, Ipswich and Logan together is approximately 2,047 square kilometres. So Scenic Rim is actually a bit more than twice their combined size. There are more than 200 rare or threatened species within the region. We have a lot to get through this evening, so I would now like to introduce our Acting General Manager, Council Sustainability, Deborah Moore, and Acting General Manager, Asset Environment Sustainability, Shane Gillette, to the podium. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, and welcome everybody. So just the presentation tonight's around 15 minutes from Shane and myself, and there's 5 minutes afterwards for an opportunity to ask questions. If you have lots of questions, I'm happy to then take any of those budget questions offline and talk to you to the side if you'd like. So how did we come up with the baseline starting point for the budget, which is all in those budget packs and which are also online? So the starting point was we rolled over last year's budget and existing services and adjusted for predicted price increases. We sought feedback from staff on potential new initiatives. We've included capital projects from the 10-year plan that was scheduled for next year, which Shane will talk a little more in depth about. We've factored in any changes that we're aware of, for example, the state waste levy. We've also allowed for some predicted growth. We've allowed for a modest revenue increase to ensure expenditure can be funded and an appropriate level of cash maintained. And we've applied a rate increase at the moment in consultation with the councillors. Now, there's all influences on this budget as we move forward, and that will come from the discussions that we have with yourselves, from any online information, and then as of next Tuesday, the budget, the council is about to go into 5 weeks of budget workshops, whereby they will take all that information and put it back into the budget and play with it and come up with what will be the June budget. So the general rates and community infrastructure charges, at the moment we've got an amount on there at $6.42 for next year, which is up $42 per annum, and that's an average of about 7%. A new environmental levy is something that we are proposing, and that environmental levy will fund some core programs, initiatives and incentives such as the Biosecurity Landholder Support Program, Reserve Management Enhancement, Flying Fox Landholder Support Program and some fire mitigation program. And that we're looking at perhaps a $50 per annum as a levy for that. So along with the operating maintenance and capital expenses increases, and some of that will fund information systems modernisation project, additional funds for roads renewal and capital works projects. There's also waste is expected increase of approximately 14.3%, and some of that is because of the necessity to evaporate leach out from our current landfill site. There's an increase in the state waste disposal levy from $115 to $125, and then a reduction in state's domestic reimbursement of the waste disposal from 85%, reducing it down to 70% for council. So at the moment, as per the pie graph, some of the key revenue that we get in on a yearly basis and the percentage of those. So operating grants, subsidies, contributions and donations, about 8% of our revenue. Share of profit from associates, 2%. Other revenues, 5%. Interest received, around 3%. And sale of contract and recoverable works at 5%. Fees and charges, 9%, and net rates and utility charges at 68%. Operating expenses, some of the key expenses is depreciation is at 20% of our budget. Finance costs are around 1%. materials and services at 42%, and employee expenses come out at around 37% of the budget. And this is just a breakdown of for every dollar in the 100 and where some of it's going. And that means, as you can see from there, for example, library services cost about $2.86, corporate services $19, sporting infrastructure $1.32, and disaster management at 55 cents. So there's just a few up there, and they are also in your budget packs. And I'll hand over to Shane now.
Good afternoon, everyone. Shane Gillett, Acting General Manager, Asset and Environmental Sustainability. As most people here tonight will understand, that Council manages and operates a very diverse range of assets, ranging from roads, bridges, to council facilities, community facilities and open space assets. As part of this draft capital budget, we were trying to balance the mix between renewing and maintaining our existing asset base while ensuring upgrading and growth within the respective networks. Currently, Council has an asset base of just over close to $1.4 billion worth of assets, so that is what it currently would cost to replace all our existing assets. A breakdown of the different asset classes are shown there, and of course roads and bridges make up 74% of this value, and that is why within the capital budget there's a heavy emphasis, and within the corporate plan, on our transport networks. As part of planning for these assets and the capital works program that's put forward as part of the draft budget, Council has 4 separate asset management plans which sets the framework of how these assets are to be managed. This includes the timing of assets when they should be replaced or their useful life, and better known of how the depreciation is calculated, how often we undertake condition assessments, which forms the fundamental backbone of how our rehabilitation program is developed, and different strategy and trigger points as to when new assets should be built. These plans are currently also in the process of being renewed, but the fundamental principle of optimising our asset life and minimising whole-of-life costing is still our fundamental core principle. Here we give some asset stats of what we currently exist and maintain within the network. So overall, we have over 1,750 kilometres of roads between our sealed and unsealed road networks, with a further 520 kilometres of state roads. We have over 130 bridges, of which 62 are still timber and 68 are concrete. We have 4 swimming pools that we own and operate, as well as 2 others that we lease out or have management agreements in place. As part of the draft capital budget in your budget packs tonight, there is currently $29.6 million worth of capital spend. Over the 10-year forecasting, that there is $35.6 million as an average. Council is heavily reliant on external funding to assist in the delivery of these programs. We currently have $6.7 million in the draft capital budget of external grant funds, predominantly within the road space, of 3.9 for our roads, 200K for our state library, and 2.5 million in infrastructure charges that we receive from developers. These grants are our known grants that are consistent each year, and Council proactively throughout the course of the year put submissions in for further grant fundings to assist in the delivery of those programs based off of the state and federal grant opportunities. Of our current capital budget, over 81% or $24 million is currently spent on renewing our existing assets. That's just a quick overall summary of where our capital spend is going, and as I mentioned previously, that the majority of that is on our transport assets, being our major asset base. And that is just a bit of a summary of our capital spend over the next 10 years. Some of the major highlights within the 25-26 capital budget is that we have $6.8 million on renewing our council road network, of which is an additional $1 million for our asphalt roads have been put into the draft capital works program. $2 million on Beachmont Road there for an upgrade and safety improvements. $1.9 million for Veristale Scrub Road, which is also an upgrade and safety improvements. We just recently announced a successful black spot grant funding opportunity for Coralbin Road, which has been included. $1.6 million for the upgrade of Taylor Bridge at Christmas Creek. We've currently got a grant submission in for that, as well as our standard $1.2 million bridge rehabilitation program to maintain our existing timber bridges. Some other capital spends are $300,000 on upgrade and new public convenience at Festival Reserve, $650,000 sport and recreational key infrastructure, which we try to maximise with searching for external funding via grants. $100,000 for the skate park upgrade at Moriarty Park, $80,000 for our picnic shelter replacement program, and $250,000 for our library books and resources, which is predominantly funded by grants as well. So thank you for that. That's a snapshot of the capital works program for next year. Any questions? Correct, Councillor Sanders. That's part of this current year's budget.
Sorry, I was just...
That 7% rise in the rate costs, does that include the $50 for the environment fee, was it?
No, the environmental levy's on top of that 50. Yes, yes. And the 7% is just a baseline figure at the moment. That could go down or up, as the case may be. Hopefully not up.
The picnic shelter replacement program. I don't know what that is about.
No, so via our asset management planning, where our picnic shelters are deteriorated past a certain point, we'll have a program to proactively replace them in different locations throughout the city, region.
I just have a comment, please. Nigel Wastel, Tanbury Mountain. Is this the only opportunity to ask questions about the budget, or is the Mayor prepared to take questions later on?
No, you can ask questions about the budget, certainly.
With the Mayor later on?
With the Mayor later on.
Well, certainly you can ask them now if you like, or it's time permitting. But I think, Nigel, the other...
Well, we have till 7 o'clock.
But there's going to be more opportunities over the course of the coming weeks.
No, I'm interested in asking the questions tonight.
Go ahead.
Okay. Pre-election, you said you were going to have reasonable rates. For this audience and the listening in audience, would you like to give a definition of reasonable rates in light of the fact that your draft budget is at 7%?
Yeah. So, as I've stated quite clearly, I believe, to want of a better definition, reasonable rates, and this is exactly what that is as a draft budget that has been put together by the administration. There's no input from the councillors at this stage.
So what is your definition of reasonable rates?
I think in my mind, what the people want to see is that they want to see the maximum dollar of their rate money out on the roads, for example, providing those services, and they actually want to see that visibly. And we will gather the feedback from the public, whether or not they're seeing that at this point in time.
So you don't have a definition of reasonable rates. Okay, we'll leave that for the time being. Pre-election, you said you wanted to have transparency. You haven't yet published the operational budget in full so that residents can see where their money is going. Is it still your intention to refuse to publish the operational budget, or will you be publishing it?
I think if we go back, could we go back a couple of slides? Have you got a slide with the $100? Okay. So any anybody anywhere in the world, whether it be corporate, government, entity, publishes one budget. And within that, you will see a capital works program. In terms of an operational budget, if you take out the capital management program, people assume that that is the operational budget. What is key within an operational budget is that is the component that is going out to maintain the assets and provide the community services. And I think what Nigel is trying to get at, quite possibly, if we go back to that previous slide, is that if you see corporate services, and which can have many different descriptions, which is basically the administration overhead. So if you look at, for example, what does it cost to open the doors of the administration centre before any services are provided? The staff in that administration, the IT services, the legal costs, etc., etc. So the first time in a long time, the first time that I know of that Scenic Rim has ever done that, you're actually now provided with the administration cost before we start providing any services to you and the public. If you have a look at that figure, that's $19.85 per $100 of rates paid. If you then go to the P&L and you have a look at the amount of revenue that is garnered from rates, charges, levies, waste management, so on, I think that figure, as a guesstimate, is about 117 million. If you apply 19.8% to 17 million, you're going to wind up with a figure of approximately 23 million. And then you take that off the revenue figure, you take the capital works figure off for that, and you are left with your operating budget. Thank you.
So your answer is no, you will not publish the operational budget in full. Next question is, you and I had a discussion earlier on about the IT system, and you said it was only being used to its 5% of its capacity, because it was renewed in my time when I was a councillor here, and you said to me it's only being used at 5% of its capacity, and you wanted to change that. Why are we now spending more money with a new IT system, or is it something different?
I'll be talking more about that, but in short, Nigel, my understanding is that the council, since the formation, and I'll get the exact details, so I don't want to misquote here, subscribed to a service called Tech One. Thank you. And my understanding, and I'll get the exact information, this is probably going to be very approximate, but they have paid year in, year out a substantial amount of money that may be as much as $700,000 to $1 million a year. I can't quote you what the figure is. My understanding is that the council have utilised in that time over those years less than 20% of that service. Now, what does that mean? And when that was presented to me for the first time, I couldn't understand it. So you either address the issue and fully utilise the service, otherwise you keep wasting $500,000 of ratepayers' money every single year in, year out. This council is looking at electing to eliminate that waste and actually apply the technology. Do you want to, Deborah, would you give not being an IT person, would you give a rundown of the IT capability for council?
So at the moment, council have actually got a strategy out, and it's a 3-year strategy, and we're looking at a number of programs and actions that council need to do to bring our databases and our programs up to date, also to be online in a more modern environment, because at the moment we're not in the cloud and we're not working as smart as we should be with the IT stuff. And then the other part of that is there is in that budget and within that strategy some room for replacement of hardware that we need to replace as well.
Other than it being budget, what is the other priority in the IT side of it? Is it people use IT in different ways. So is it to create more links for the community, to empower the community? What is the purpose of using this system that you've got at the moment?
Yeah. So
Smarter? I don't know.
yes, it is. It's a smarter system as well. So we're looking at all that online and how the community can use it, and you can tap straight in to the system and put in your concerns, your complaints, pay things online. So we are looking at that as well. But then the other end of that is the back end of it, which is making sure that those programs are up to date and that we're secure with them. Because as you've all know, there's a lot of risk out there with IT programs at the moment. So that's about keeping council safe at the same time.
Just have another question over here.
Oh, just with regard to the Black Spot program and Coralbin Road, do you know which section of the road is going to be upgraded?
Yes, it's the first section from the intersection to about a kilometre in, just over a kilometre in from that point of view, with different safety improvements.
A couple of questions on different topics. You're upgrading the IT system, which I can understand you see a need for that. That's great, except a great number of us don't have reasonable internet contact or access to be able to actually get to use these things. Now, I know that's not a council responsibility, but if you want the system to operate properly, and it will operate obviously properly for the administration, it's also got to operate properly and effectively for the general community. And the way things currently are, I'm not sure that can happen. It's probably more of a comment than a question for you.
Oh no, that's right. Because there are programs, and council work with the providers on what we call black spot for internet and everything. So that's part of what council do. We try and work with them and find out where those black spots are in the region, and hopefully then they're improving the networks and that. So they do talk to us about the improvement of those networks.
Okay, just one further comment on that then. The black spot is, those black spots have been known for a while, and you know they exist for a reason, usually topographical. The other thing that has happened is where some places that have had really good service for many years, certainly from the initiation of broadband, suddenly are finding they have very poor contact. And the reason being because of the influx of residents accessing the service, which is putting pressure on the bandwidth available. And so people in slightly out of the way areas, apart from the big residential estates, are finding they're getting restricted service as a result of that. So it's not just the black spots, it's making sure that existing areas also maintain that good contact. So again, sorry, just a comment on that.
No, that's right. And we are trying to advocate on behalf of the community around those areas, and as we grow. So we do talk to those providers and that, and they are aware of it. So that as we grow, that grows with us. But that's in their ballpark then. Yeah, exactly.
A second question
Yeah.
on a different topic. In relation to the road, the transport infrastructure network, which is the biggest expenditure in the budget, a lot of the things that are listed in there seem to be listed as rehabilitation or upgrade or some such thing. A criticism, probably a little bit, maybe unfairly labelled, but a lot of what I see as I move around the region is roads get repaired and within a very short space of time they're back to the way they were. Now that's a lot to do with the amount of heavy vehicles, cars, just an increase in traffic, generally. But there's also a fair bit of poor workmanship involved. So maybe a suggestion rather than a criticism is to say that as well as upgrading information technology for administration staff to make everything work much more smoothly and effectively. Perhaps there also should be in that transport budget some money set aside for not just investigation into more effective and efficient road building methods, but also staff training in applying those methods. And at the same time looking at the labour costs involved and whether or not those jobs can be done more efficiently and effectively.
Noted.
Add to that and say I think it's more than that. I think it comes from the attitude of the local people that use those roads. I would add to that and say I don't necessarily think it's to do with the lack of labour skills and things. I think a lot of it is also to do with the attitude of the people who use those roads. As a mother with a toddler, I'm very afraid of some of those roads that I go on. There have been many times when I've pulled over just to let somebody go past because I've felt unsafe, and I know that a lot of other people, not just mothers, have felt that way. So I think it's an attitudinal thing that needs to be addressed. I don't know how, but yeah, we can't change people's nature, but...
Cool.
Just so we can keep within our timeframes tonight, I'm sorry to say we're going to have to move on to the corporate plan, but I am quite happy if anyone wants to talk or ask any questions offline, that I will do that with you.
Valuations have obviously gone up. A lot of people are surprised at how high they are. Will Council consider reintroducing banding of rates, which we used to have, so that those people on the higher land valuation get a lower rate in a dollar? Is this being considered, or have you said no?
So as part of the councillor budget workshops, we have a consultant that's going to come in and actually set some scenarios and work with council on different rate models and what that might look like. So they've got a heavy day ahead of them coming up soon.
Thanks everyone for coming this evening. My name is Jo Jones and I'm the Interim Manager for Customer, Community and Culture. So I look after libraries, cultural services like this building, customer service, disaster management and community development as well. So I've also been working quite closely with the Mayor and the councillors and the exec team on developing a corporate plan. And I just thought before we launch into that discussion, I'd just explain a little bit more about what the corporate plan is and why we have one. So at the moment, Council's got a corporate plan which expires in 2026. And after the election, the Mayor and councillors were keen to have a look at that plan, make sure it was still relevant and reflected the priorities. It's a legislative requirement that we have a corporate plan. So there's legislation for local government which says we have to have a 5-year corporate plan, and that informs all of our planning, our budgets, all the work that we're doing every day and our services. So we've been working on this corporate plan probably for the last 6 months or so, and that process has been working with the Mayor and the councillors and the executive team over a number of workshop sessions, lots of discussions and meetings, and we've come up with this draft document which is intended to set the direction for council for the next 5 years. So what I'll do over the coming slides is just talk you through what's in that draft document, and happy to take some questions at that point, and then we're going to go into a couple of activities which will really help us to finalise that plan, make sure we've got it right and make sure that we've included all those things that are most important to the community. So we've got the opportunity to have input tonight and obviously also over the coming weeks. So in the corporate plan, we have got a draft vision. So the vision is for the whole region. So council is proposing this as a vision for what we want Scenic Rim to be like in 5 years' time, what we want to be known for, and capture what's special about the region both now and into the future. So we have had some very heated, is that fair to say? Discussions, lots of really good debate, discussion about what the vision should be, and the draft vision as it stands is that the Scenic Rim is world-renowned region, recognised for its unique natural beauty and heritage, authentic experiences and welcoming communities. So you can see that draft vision captures information about the environment, the opportunities that are here for visitors, our communities, but really welcoming feedback on that. Does it ring true to you as a resident of the region? Does it make sense? Is it where we're heading from your perspective? So we're looking for that feedback through our consultation process. The draft corporate plan also includes a mission. So the mission is really setting out what council's job is, why we're here, what we're here to deliver, and we are here as an organisation for the community. We are here to deliver infrastructure for the community and services. So we have, as you've touched on in the budget presentation, a whole range of services that we deliver every single day, from parks to libraries to roads and drainage and all sorts of things that keep this whole region ticking, and that engages with all parts of the community. So we see that as our driving purpose, the mission. And the intention is that that really clearly defines to every person who works for council and works with council what we're trying to do. So we're talking about managing our assets. We're talking about all the things that council own, all the community effectively owns, so and how we look after those assets, and then all the services that we need to deliver, and making sure those services are delivered really well and that we're responding to changes in our community. So that's what that section is really all about, and really trying to clearly state what we are here to do. Probably for around about a year, I suppose, we've had internally a series of values that have come from consultation with council's employees. So through staff surveys and focus groups and meetings, all the employees had the opportunity to feed into this process. And we've got 4 values that we use internally. For the corporate plan, we're just really pushing out the fact that these are our core values. Everybody who works within council is really here for the service of the community. We want to be resilient, and we want to make sure that we're supporting the community to be as resilient as possible. We always want to treat the community with respect and vice versa, and really as teams work together with a high level of commitment to deliver what is sometimes challenging programs of work. And so that's really about the way that council works and how we do our work day to day. So lots of the discussion in corporate plan workshops was around making sure the organisation is as efficient, effective, and delivers as much value as possible. And as the Mayor touched on, we do have a lot of outward-facing services, but like any organisation or business, we do have internal services. We have our IT systems and our buildings, we have our HR department and lots of other things. So the way that we operate internally has an impact on cost, and it has an impact on how you as community members access services. So a new program is proposed in the corporate plan, which is really all about improving the way that the organisation works as a whole. And there are 5 areas of focus, forgive the pun. We have 5 letters that stand for those 5 pillars for that work to happen. And financial sustainability is the first one, so really looking at our long-term sustainability. Do we have enough money to maintain our assets? Do we have enough money moving forward to meet the needs of the community with those services that we have to deliver or that the community want us to deliver? In terms of operational effectiveness, things like the IT program and improving our processes and looking at ways of doing things better is always a focus for our teams, but that's really going to have a stronger focus. Customer experience, looking at online and face-to-face phone services, how easy it is for people to do business with council. So yes, we are going to look at online, as you were mentioning, but we're still going to have that face-to-face presence and the phone services where people can get the information, they can do the processes they need to do, and we're really going to focus on making the customer experience as good as it possibly can. We always look to improve the culture in council. So with big organisation, lots of moving parts, lots of different teams, working in indoor roles, outdoor roles, right across a huge region. And so working really on the safety and the culture and making that a really big priority in the next 5 years is included here. We're really looking at how to embed those values we talked about, make sure that we're working together, that we're connecting the right people internally, and then that those people are safe and well supported. And the final one is strategic partnerships. So as Shane mentioned in his presentation, a lot of the work we do, we rely on grant funding coming in. And we're often applying for external grants, or we're looking for partners to work with us on those bigger ticket items. So how we coordinate that advocacy, how we coordinate that funding is going to be a really important process to deliver some of these big challenges. So the core in terms of the outward-facing section of the corporate plan is strategic goals. So what we've done here is not thrown the baby out with the bathwater. We looked at the corporate plan that we've got now and then looked at all the other pieces that are emerging issues or other areas of work that we know we need to look at. And then really pulling together a series of really big priorities for the council to address in the next 5 years. So we're looking at planning and placemaking being things like the planning scheme, but also local level planning of the smaller places and what we need to do to improve those centres. Integrated transport, so making sure that the roads, the public transport, the active transport like footpaths and cycleways are all well coordinated. Economic development is covering things like tourism, business development, and looking at how we're getting those jobs in the region to support that growing population. Connected communities captures really our focus to make our communities as strong as possible, creative as possible, lively, engaging, and really resilient to what seems to be a repeated response to disaster in this region. We do need to work with our community and make sure that we're ready and we're prepared and we do everything we can to support the community there. The fifth strategic goal is environment and waste. So we recognise that there's a lot of work to do in that environmental management space. Council owns a lot of land, but we also support landowners. And the waste management is obviously a large challenge for every local government, but we're really capturing that need to plan and manage waste really effectively. And finally, sport and recreation. So across the region, we have got parks, open spaces, we've got playgrounds, we've got lots of sporting facilities, which, you know, the driving force behind all those activities, including my own children's activities, all the volunteer work that happens across this region is quite incredible, and council couldn't deliver without those volunteers, so we want to do what we can to support those organisations through training, development, and grants where that's possible. So we're really just acknowledging here a lot of the activity in that sports space is all committees and volunteers doing lots of really good work. So I think it's a bit of a rapid run through. It gives you a bit of an idea about the structure of that document, but really encourage everybody to have a read. If you want to give feedback after the session through online, I'll mention that at the end, but we really are encouraging your feedback. It's a document that's really important because it flows through to everything else that council does and informs our budget. All right, so I might take a couple of questions before we launch into the exciting activities I have planned.
I just have a very quick one.
Hey.
I just noticed on there that there's no arts or music, and I just wondered whether that's been considered and in which area. I'm looking at connected communities as a potential, but
Yeah, thank
I
you.
see that as really important in that realm.
Thank you for your question. Yes, so we do have arts and culture activities that happen within the team and some grants and so on. So yes, that definitely fits into connected communities. It also sort of fits into the planning and the placemaking because sometimes public art is part of those upgrades into areas, and playgrounds and things like that sometimes have public art elements. But sorry, you weren't saying, yeah, art and music. So there are 3 cultural centres which host music events, and community events also sometimes have a musical element. We do like to do whatever we can in that space, and it's definitely part of that plan. Yeah, thank you.
I attended a integrated transport workshop some time ago, so I'm just wondering if there's a time frame for the release of that strategy. And also, I think I gave feedback for the sport and recreation strategy, so I'm just curious as to when they might be released.
Sure. So integrated transport, the draft, I'm looking at Shane. Shane's going to come. It's in the pipeline. I think we're going to consult on that draft document really soon. I'll throw to Shane.
Correct. Yes, so the draft integrated transport plan is there. We're presenting it to council next week and then back out to community consultation in the near future. We just have to liaise with our main roads before we come back out to the community.
So if you keep an eye on Let's Talk Scenic Rim, it will all go back up onto there. Yes. The sport and recreation plan was quite some time ago, and that is now on the website. So if you can't find it, shout and we'll pop that through. So there is the plan is up, yeah. Any other questions? Hey.
Hopefully I'm positive. I don't want to knock anything that's there. I think it's a great publication. I've read the thing from cover to cover. So congratulations to the team that did that. My question is in relation to one of the slides you had up there, strategic, the last one you had, strategic partnerships. Can I just get some idea of how wide you can go with those partnerships in terms of the local regional area? And for example, I know about a program in Logan called Logan Healthy Living, and that I actually work for an organisation that does part of that. And I know just how much input that council has into that, and it's not necessarily financial input, but it's more importantly, I guess, discussions between, because it's state government and federal government funding and so on. I'm just wondering how widely the council and the councillors want to promote those strategic partnerships, because I know that there are lots of organisations out there who want to work with you.
I'll make a couple of comments on that. We have a lot of different partnerships that exist between both at the mayor and councillor level and at the officer level, so staff attend lots of different workshops. I guess as we work through this corporate plan, this will help us to really prioritise those things that we want to build partnerships around. I don't know if there's anyone else. I'm getting waved at for time, yeah. So once we've really firmed up these priorities, then we'll be building those partnerships. I don't know if the mayor wants to add anything around that strategic discussions, or you're happy. We'll talk maybe more as the group discussions move through. So the question was around how we're tackling those strategic partnerships, and yeah.
I think that adds the question you asked, and I don't want to speak from my perspective, though any other councillors that wish to comment, but I think those strategic partnerships are critical to our region, particularly around private enterprise. One is that's what makes the region tick, and we've seen the newly enlisted state government talking more about private-public partnerships. In terms of other government levels, and the advocacy work that we do is incredibly important, because we've got a 30-year deficit in infrastructure for our region. So we need to address that urgently, and we need to address it now.
Alrighty, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. So really wrapping that up, I encourage everybody to give your feedback, have a read. If there's anything you think is missing, if there's anything you think you'd like to see in the plan for the 5 years, please do give that feedback, because it's not set in stone. We are still working through that process. But I'd like to kick off an activity at your tables, if that's okay. We've got a couple of questions for you. So we've got about 20 minutes, maybe a few minutes less than 20 minutes, because I've probably talked too long. But the first question I really want to ask everybody to have a think about, and we will be bringing around some paper for you to write on, and there should be some pens at your tables, is what do you love about Scenic Rim? So we're really trying to capture in our corporate plan a sense of what the region is all about, and in developing that vision, we really want to capture what's special. So the first question is going to be, what do you love about Scenic Rim? And the second question, having heard the challenges for the region and the growing population and the investment we need, what do you think people should love about the region in 2030? So the reason we're asking that question is, in 5 years' time, how would we know we've got it right? How do we know what the region should look like? By 2030, what would you like it to look like? If it's different to now, it may not be different to now. So we've got a limited time, so we'll kick off. And if somebody can write, we won't judge your handwriting, and we won't, but if we could capture some of those thoughts as a group discussion, that would be amazing. And we'll give you a little prompt when to move on to the second question. Thank you.